Board will resume its session after being in recess for executive session. And the first item is to review the agenda if there's additions or deletions.
Madam Chair, can I ask for addition to an update on the high school fire? This happened this last week.
I do plan on talking about that in my comments,
There you go.
if that's
Never
okay.
mind. Covers
Okay, thank you. And then that we have an addition that Dr. Phillipson has offered on under 9 board action items, and that is to add catalyst school designation on that. And he will explain that. Any other additions or corrections? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead with our agenda. The first item in the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 11th, 23, the board minutes, and they're in our extensive packet. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors accept the minutes as presented.
Is there a second
I'll second it.
discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item is the new hires and resignations on the consent agenda. And that was sent out by email, right? And it's also in our packet
Yes.
on page. Does anybody have a motion to approve?
I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion has been seconded. Is there a discussion? If not, do you have it?
I just want to make one comment also on the consent agenda that you just approved. There was also a donation from the Newburgh Rotary Foundation for $600 for summer school. So wanted to thank them for that.
Thank you.
Was that something that we ask for every year, or is that? No,
Yes, that is a request that we do ask for every year based on our needs. So during our COVID years, when we had additional summer school funding from the summer learning grants, we did not make donation requests. Typically a request is between $3,000 and $5,000. This year requested 600.
okay, and what is that? Is that designated for something specific for the?
Basically it's specific to whatever the administrator's needs are. And so this year, I believe that went to field trips and I believe their family night.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, a vote, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Public forum. This is a time for public to give comments, and we appreciate the public coming and giving comments. And just a reminder, I read something this week that was interesting. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "We can disagree, but be agreeable in our disagreement." And considering that she and Anthony Scalia both served on the Supreme Court, and they probably voted most of the time on opposite ends and were close friends, I thought her wisdom was good. And so as you give comments, remember, we don't criticize anybody individually, and we appreciate your comments constructively, and thank you for doing that. And yes, we still have the 2-minute time limit. The board has not discussed changing that yet.
Would you like me to go first?
Okay, go ahead. Dr. Phillips is going to read first.
Okay, so I have 2 that have been emailed in. One, I'm a little bit of a editorial. It came in the day of the last board meeting, July 11th. Our policy is we won't read one unless it came in the day before. So this did come in late. It came in about a month ago, but it was late for last meeting. Tabitha reached out and said, hey, do you still want us to read it? Because it's a month old, and they said yes. So, and board members, it's in your packet. Dear board members, I'm writing you today to voice my support for Superintendent Phillips. I am hearing rumors that the new board members are planning to remove him. I sincerely hope that is all they are. Not only would this cost the district $1.2 million to buy out his contract, but it would create more division in our community and serve to undermine continuity of good leadership. Not only have test scores improved under Superintendent Phillips's tenure, but a new sense of calm and purposeful direction have returned to our schools. If you really are the moderates you ran as, you will do everything to ensure that Dr. Phillips remains district superintendent. Sincerely, David Kloss, 23-year Newburgh resident. And then this one is, I guess, more current. Hello, directors. Thank you for your communication regarding this topic. I was one of the many people from the community as a parent of children in the school district who was directly involved in the participation of drafting a parent bill of rights. I volunteered in this role. This Parents' Bill of Rights is important to me and other parents. It is a statement that makes clear what it is that students and parents want for their children's education in the public school system. Students and parents need to be supported in what they want or don't want in public education. Honestly, this should be a, quote, given in a public school district. However, since such a common sense basic concept is not a, quote, given anymore in this day and age, this Parents' Bill of Rights makes the roles of students and parents more clear for people to refer to for being informed or reminded. I support the Parent Bill of Rights. Lauren P. That's all I have.
Okay, now we have people who are present who have said they would like to speak. First is Sarah King, please.
Just a logistics note, it's really difficult to hear in the back, so I'm not sure if there's a way to change that. So just as a heads up. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
They're working on it. Thank you very much. So Sarah King, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to see all of you. I just wanted to bring to your attention, and it's also been provided to you via email, some concerns and questions I had regarding the start and end times of the school year this year, specific to elementary school, which is my own experience having two children in elementary classes. So the question I have is, what was the reason for the change? And I also am wondering what we're going to do to support families and our educators with this change specific to the elementary start time, which is now quite a bit earlier than it was before. So I just want to give my experience that as a caregiver who works outside of the home, I'm now also scrambling to find after school care solutions for my children who are leaving school at 2:10 every day because my work doesn't conclude until 5 p.m. So for those families who have a full-time care available, that is fantastic. But for those who don't, this really creates an additional financial and logistical burden. I know that is my question to you is the district working with care providers to support additional capacity needs to support the increased care around the district for this change? And I'm wondering if you're also providing training opportunities for those older siblings who may now be becoming the primary caregiver when those after school hours are happening because their guardians are still at work. So I understand that for the middle and high schooler times, this was a potential opportunity to have them missing less class in order to participate in after school sports. But keep in mind, from the elementary perspective, we don't get that opportunity. There's no school sports at that age. And all of those opportunities are generally provided through coaching that's from a volunteer who is still usually a working adult. So those earlier evening opportunities aren't present for those elementary students then. So we're still going to be up late and have to be up early. Okay. And then I also had questions about the inclement weather, because I know that if we have an early start time for our elementary students, does that mean that the information when we have inclement weather is going to be disseminated earlier in the morning? Because, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great evening.
The next person is
Good evening, board members. Can you hear me okay? I don't like mics, so I'm going to stand back. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Susan Louthan, as you said. I graduated Newburgh High School, raised my kids here. I grew up here, and I also worked as a teacher, and I retired from this district. Tonight, I'm asking permission from this board to install a Christian cross in front of Chehalem Valley Middle School, in between the Buddha that's positioned already in the front garden and the United Nations Peace Pole. Based on the history of the Buddha standing in front of Chehalem Valley Middle School for 28 years, the United Nations Peace Poles for 7 years, and your value system of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I asked for the cross to also stand in front of the school with a sign that says, "Your heart, your choice. Choose today who you will serve." I'm asking for a motion to proceed with permission tonight or as soon as possible so that this can be installed before school starts in a few weeks. Thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you. If I read this correctly, Bob Young, last name,
Maybe young one?
Yugman? Okay, thank you.
Can everybody hear me back here? It's been my honor to have been Director of Physical Plant Services here at the school district a number of years ago when we built Edwards during that period of time. And our kids went through the system, the school district, and achieved, did very well as a result of that. And I believe very strongly that we are fortunate to have Steve here with us. Look at the results. Look at the results. Look at what our staff is doing. I'd also like to say that I believe very strongly that the policies of the district should not lead to a boy going into a girl's bathroom or a girl going into a boy's bathroom. That's not part of our culture. That's of our city or of our country. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Kath Blankenbiller. Yes, thank you.
Superintendent Phillips, board members, fellow citizens. I'm Kath Blankenbiller. I live in Newburgh. I recently learned about a document called Supporting Gender Expansive Students, Guidance for Schools. It's put out by the Oregon Department of Education, published in January 2023. It's online, anyone can see it. I printed it out. It's very interesting 48-page document. In it, minor children can dictate all kinds of things about their bodies and no one can dare to question them. In that, they cover such things as recommended non-discriminatory practices, names and pronouns, student support and safety plans, gender affirming care in schools, student records, first name changes, faculty facilities access, equity and instructional materials, physical education, gender specific participation, gender-based activities and single-sex programs. So many other things. And at the end, there's an appendix of terminology where they have definitions of assertive name, gender attribution, agender, genderqueer, two-spirit, anti-transgender stigma, conversion therapy, and many, many other things as well. Very interesting document. So Oh, but there's something in here that really struck me. A couple of pages on, a couple of sentences on page 6 here. What?
That's time.
Oh, doggone. Thank you. You should see page 6.
Thank you. The next person is Ursa Shaw, please.
All right. Thank you to the board for allowing me to comment today. And I know this is a very busy time for you all, so thank you. My name is Ursa Shaw, and I've lived in Newburgh for 19 years. I have 2 children, ages 15 and 12. Here. And I'm a public school teacher, and I currently substitute teach. My daughter Adelaide has played violin since she was in preschool. And this last year, she has really enjoyed playing in the advanced orchestra at Mountain View Middle School under the amazing direction of Miss Shay Skiles. The Newburgh School District has been phenomenal in providing the opportunity for her. She is a virtual charter school student at Frontier Charter Academy. And all of my friends and family have heard me sing praises about this public school for the win, in my own opinion, where we've got her able to do orchestra and also get her core classes at Frontier Charter. In June, the Mountain View principals sent 3 families a letter stating that in the next school year, orchestra would cost $2,034. And that's the letter that is on the top there. So in talking with the other 2 families who are orchestra students and also virtual charter families, we're a bit baffled as to what prompted the letter. If the intent is to discourage for advanced orchestra students from playing next year, then it may very well succeed because the cost, $2,034, is prohibitively high. So right away, I contacted our vice principal at Mountain View. I wanted to chat with her about it to double check on the cost. She responded that it was, to her knowledge, an accurate amount. So I did some research on my own. And as it turns out, that price tag has no basis in the Newburgh School Board policy. There is no policy about middle school orchestra or middle school charter school students who want to take music at their local school. In the absence of district policy on this, I ask that you, the board, use your past process to give guidance to the upcoming school year. The past process was to not charge charter school students. And finally, in the back, there is the Oregon state law regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Erica Barber, please.
Good evening. I'm also wanting to speak about the middle school elective. My son Nolan is an upcoming 8th grader in the back, and he really enjoyed going to Mountain View Middle School and playing with the other students, playing cello. I have an upcoming 6th grader also who's been taking lessons for viola all summer, and we were really looking forward to him being able to join his brother in orchestra. I want to thank you first most for supporting music in the Newburgh schools, because I got to go visit advanced orchestra 2 years ago when we were considering this. And I watched this active room fill with students, and no matter what was stressful and going on in their day, no matter how they were doing elsewhere in life, no matter what their current emotional situation was, they got to come together and make something beautiful together. And they're learning a skill that is largely inaccessible outside of public school. These instruments are expensive and difficult to acquire. And the gift of being able to make music together just so moved me. And especially in the middle school setting, I think it's so valuable. So I ask you to continue to pull for that and support it. And I would ask that no matter what different school situation fits Newburgh kids academically, that we keep the opportunity open for kids to make music together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who spoke. We appreciate your input. The next thing is report presentation discussion items. The first one is the discussion of the 21-22 audit. And Luke Donaldson from the audit company is here to speak. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. You know, we did this once before, but I think there's some new faces between now and then. So I thought I would touch on kind of the board letter, and we're going to go all the way to the back after that, and I'll give you the page number to look for so you can follow along. So this should be within your board packet. The most important part within this board letter is going to be on the final page, which I think is page 5. So this is where there's a few changes in comparison from when we talked last time. I'll kind of just touch over both of them regardless. The first one would be fidelity insurance coverage. These are best practices. These are not deficiencies. These are recommendations from our audit firm. So what fidelity insurance coverage is, it's your crime coverage policy on your cash balances. So this is extremely common. This is for
You said page 5
of the board letter.
Oh,
Mhm. So it's going to come all the way up in the front of the audit packet.
V.
Go. Yep. No, V is going to be separate. No, you're fine. You can keep going. So the header page of that's going to say communication with the governing body. And then you'll go page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you'll go into the opinion letter.
The front of the report. That's it.
It may not be within your board packet. That's what think my conclusion is. This is okay. I can explain it. It's not going to be anything too intense to
Is it the
explain.
one that you said independent auditors report on internal?
No, that's going to be the opinion letter. So that one is separate, but I will touch on that after this, but we can run through this very quickly. Again, with the fidelity insurance coverage, that is your crime coverage. So again, these are best practices. These are recommendations. These are not leading to any deficiencies in your audit. So your crime coverage is how much of your cash is insured if somebody was to steal it, basically. This is common, not just common. There's every single district that I've worked on and or seen, which is dozens. They all have this, but we like to bring it up at the board, especially since you guys are a new client this year, to review what your coverage is, see your cash amounts, and see what's comfortable for you. It's going to be very, very, very difficult. You're not going to be able to get 100%. I wouldn't even try. It's very expensive, but kind of finding where you want to mitigate risk on how much percentage you want. I'd like to bring this to the board's attention. And yes, that'd be something to discuss with your business manager to see what your limits are. I do not have that with me today. The second would be your preparation and review of bank reconciliations. So when we came in, I'm sure many of you know, there was a fluctuation within the district of the business managers coming in, a new one. And from basically in between there was a gap in the review process of bank reconciliations. So that is when your bank statement comes out, you want to reconcile for any outstanding transactions. That needs to be reviewed and reconciled in a timely manner. We found instances where this was not the case. This is a best practice of this year, but we did expand our sample into what will be this 22-23 audit year and found instances of the same. So this will end up being a significant deficiency on next year's audit, but to clarify that it will not affect the audit opinion. So going into what the audit opinion is, we can pivot now into this year's audit opinion, which was unmodified. That means that we looked at your numbers and we agreed that materially these are correct. So regardless of having significant deficiencies, that could cause an unmodified opinion, but in your case, you're good. It did not cause a modified opinion, a qualified, or anything like that. So any questions thus far? Okay, so now we'll go to where there was additional changes. And this is going to go all the way in the back, and you guys will have this, and we can start on page 55. Okay, so these are what were the significant deficiencies within the year. These are not recommendations, these were findings. So what we can start off is this was discussed on the prior, but I'm going to go through them regardless, so everyone's kind of up to speed. So the first one was there with valuation of investments. So we found an investment account where the cash value of amount and what the market value of the amount had a vast difference, which that basically means if you're going to have an investment account and you're to cash it out right now, is the face value of what you put in the same if the market's fluctuated, or is it not? So in this case, our recommendation is that at every so often, which we've already talked how we're going to do this quarterly, the district will look at what the investment is, since these are all in either bonds, stocks, they're in treasury notes. And it says on the report what the market value is, and then it's going to say on the report what your book value is. You're going to compare it to what the district has written for the cash value and either leave it if there's not a discrepancy. You're going to change it and make it go up if there is, or you're going to change it and make it go down if it's impaired. And this year it was impaired because it had never been adjusted. That makes sense. So the market had changed, it shifted, and the cash amount did not reflect what the actual amount was in that account if you were to liquidate it. That is what's being stated here on that first 2022-001 significant deficiency. I'll go through the next one. I can take any questions with any of these once we get through them. So the second one was the recording of grant revenue. This was during that fluctuation period. There were several journal entries that were done incorrectly, and this caused the grant revenue to not be reflected correctly. This was found within our audit. It was corrected by us, and we worked with Heather in the business office. This has been handled, and this will be done by following the internal controls that are being put forth by this new administration. So this is nothing we are just planning on seeing in the future, but for this year, this was something that we did end up finding and has been addressed. So if we flip to page 56, this is one that changed and we did not talk about in the last one. And this was a land acquisition that was done in Dundee. So I know there were some questions about what we found. So there was land that was purchased in Dundee and a bond was issued by this district. That bond, the amount, all of that went into escrow. So the cash never actually was seen by the district. It went to a separate bank account. There was also a donation, and then the district had a small portion that they paid. The only part that was actually shown within that purchase was the cash amount that came out of the district, which was very small. So we had booked these to show and reflect that that land had been purchased and that you have the revenue and that you had the bond proceeds being reflected regardless of it being in your possession within the books. And that was corrected and has been done. And there are new procedures that will be implemented throughout this new business administration that they've already done to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. Bonds can get very technical, very tricky, and especially when they're in escrow, it can make it very hard to see within the district's books where that money is because it never is reflected internally. So I would like to probably take any questions that you guys have on these. Some of these can get a little tricky and a little technical. I might be able to clarify some things.
Yeah, I guess I just would like some clarification on that last item that you talked about. The land acquisition that was approved, I think it was like $3 million.
Yeah, it was 5
Was
million.
for a
but yes.
loan, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I guess I'm confused on where the bond comes in.
Yeah, sorry. Loan proceeds.
Okay.
It's
All right. Thanks.
debt proceeds in this case, but yes.
And so it's my understanding too, that all these adjustments or whatever came for the prior administration.
Yes, these were things that were outstanding from the prior year that once we got to, we were able to fix internally between us and your guys' business and manager and your business office.
So it was the prior administration that did these.
Yes, that acquisition I think was in December, if I remember, which was 6 months, I think, before your guys' new business office was put in place.
Yeah.
So yes.
Thank you.
Is it possible to get the pages that we didn't see that you referred to?
Yes,
Page
that's
five?
possible. Yeah.
Page 5 that we.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, that's completely possible. Any other questions? Concerns?
On the 001,
Yes.
resulted in a $8 million impairment. Do we know if that was up or down? Did it go, was the valuation down at that point or was it up? Or
Yeah. So as an impairment, when it's impaired, it's a loss.
Okay.
So it was 8 million less.
Do we know how long it had been from one check to another?
You could figure that out.
Okay.
I did not look. It was just based on what it is at the end. So basically just to remedy that is to look at it every
Yeah.
so
Thank you.
many months.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
The next item under the agenda is EL English Language Legislative Report. Jillian Felizarta. Did I say that right?
Just pause here for a moment while our slides get loaded up. So I'll give you a little history or background information. This report can be found on our district website and is required by law to be reported to the school board before September 1st every year. So part of this slideshow is going to be an overview of the report, and the report is the statewide report. So the preliminary data or the initial data that I will share with you is information about the state. And I am bringing in our local data to kind of show where we're at as compared to the state. You're giving away all the goodies. Okay, so I think that's our first slide, actually. So just a snapshot to familiarize yourself if you are looking for this. It is available on ODE's website. The link is on our Newburgh School District website. And the report I want to notate is 21-22 school year. So keep in mind that time frame. There will be some gaps in data during this time frame because it is 21-22 in terms of state testing and COVID results. But again, this is our generic statewide overview, and then I'm bringing in our Newburgh data. Go ahead and do the next slide. I don't know if I'm going to know. So currently across the state of Oregon, there's 100,000 students who are found eligible as students that are working on acquiring language. The state calls these students English learners. Locally, we call them multilingual learners because many of our students have many different languages, not just English and Spanish. In Newburgh-Dundee School District, we have 544 current or former English learners. So that means any student in our district that was ever acquiring language or in English language development services. So that's about 15% of our total population. The average in Oregon is 18.2%. So in terms of our district size, we are a little bit below average as compared to the rest of the state. So students receiving special education or TAG services. This is an interesting topic in the state of Oregon. 20% of students identified as acquiring language are also identified as receiving special education services. Oregon has been notorious for over-identifying students acquiring language. Our district has worked pretty diligently the last, I would say, 8-ish years on making sure that we have really tight practices in terms of supporting students acquiring language and then really trying to dig into, is it language acquisition or is it a disability? So our current rate is at 5%. For our students who are receiving TAG services, remember this is talented and gifted. The state average is 0.4%. If you are a student that is a former English learner in the state of Oregon, it's 4.9%. In Newburgh, we have no English learners receiving TAG services. So that is an area of opportunity for us, especially as we are working to grow our student achievement. Our English learner performance on our state assessments. Again, this is where I want to draw that there is spotty data here because not all students took all of the state assessments this particular year, especially our ELs. So in this year, our students who took some of the state assessments were targeted as students who were potential students who we would consider as exiting English learner services. So in Newburgh Dundee, 23% of our English learners scored proficient on the English language arts assessment at the elementary level as compared to 45.7% in the state of Oregon. 18% of our English learners performed proficient on the OSAS as compared to 44% in math. So there's quite a bit of discrepancy in these data sets, which is one of the biggest reasons why we've made some of the program shifts that I will talk with you about in the upcoming slides. Our graduation rate for students who are acquiring language, those on track to graduate, we have 58%. The state average is 76.2. However, you will notate our graduation rate, that's like actual on-time graduation, is 93%. And the state average is 75.9%. Again, I'll be talking about this a little bit later in the slides, but we have a very robust program at the high school level in terms of support for our students acquiring language. Many of our students acquiring language also identify as being migrant, and so they receive additional services. And that definitely contributes to the success in their graduation. So in terms of our student support services in Newburgh, we have transitioned to a co-teaching model. So in the past, our students acquiring language would be pulled out of their general education class and basically be taught English in a separate setting. This would range from 30 minutes to an hour. So if you're an elementary student, you're getting pulled out of a random time that's hopefully not interrupting your general education instruction during the day. For this support at the high school level, it would have been a class period. So we have transitioned our model to co-teaching. So now students have two teachers teaching in the same classroom. So it's really supporting all of our students because language is acquired for everyone. And that's being taught, co-taught K through 10th grade. Our 11th and 12th graders still have self-contained classes. And as we're rolling up our dual language program, we are phasing in our co-teaching model. So we know that dual language is one of the most efficient or proficient ways students can acquire language, supporting students in learning Spanish first and then transferring their skills in Spanish to English is the most effective language development model. And we have this in Newburgh. We are currently at the 10th grade this upcoming school year and have plans to extend this to 11th and 12th grade with some of our CTE programming as well. And one of the most important parts is being able to recruit and retain our staff. So being able to provide that high quality professional development. And the district has spent the last 3 or 4 years providing professional development around co-teaching to both our ELD specialists and our general education teachers who are co-teaching in the classroom. This year, we are revamping and bringing back our mentorship program for our new staff, and then creating our Grow Your Own programs along with that competitive salary and benefits package that I know our district's been working closely on with the unions. And so really important to have that retainment of staff that's highly skilled and trained to be able to support our students. So this graph here kind of summarizes some of the items that I just talked about. So that very top blue line that goes off across the top of the chart is the dual language model. And that is the proficiency rate for students in that model. So you'll see it tops out at 61% around 11th grade. The blue dotted line is the average student who is a native English speaker. So this is looking at their long-term achievement in acquiring language or performing in English by the 11th grade. So we are hoping that our dual language program really supports our students acquiring language and supports all students in that program. Our co-taught model is not reflected in this chart because it is a newer model. Corvallis in our immediate state is kind of the furthest along in this model. And we are in year 3 at the elementary level for co-teaching. The middle school is in year 2 and the high school is also in year 2. And you can see the content-based ELD and the early exit transitional were models that we historically had in our district prior to about 5 years ago, and students actually regress in that model because they're learning language in isolation. So they're learning it and then they're going back to their classroom and they don't have any way to apply it because it's not being taught through academic content. So that brings us to what are we doing to support our programs in addition, or our students in addition to the ELD program of co-teaching and dual language program. We also offer our federal program summer school. This is all grant funded through our migrant program, our English learner program, and our students who are in Title 1A schools. So this is a little overview of our summer school program as well. This year we served 248 students, 71 of the students identified as EL, 144 identify as migrant students, and 33 were in Title 1A schools or students. And I would say there's a ton of overlap within this. So a student could be both migrant and EL, but I'm identifying them based on how they qualified. Our program started with migrant students. So if you are a student who is qualified for migrant services in Newburgh, you're automatically eligible to attend. So they receive 100% funding based on the grants that we get from the WESD. And then with our Title 1A program and our Title 3 program, which supports our EL students, they attend based on assessment scores. And so this is not mandatory, not required. Letters go out each year for students who their data shows are experiencing struggle. This year we had 13 teachers, 7 were bilingual, and 11 EAs, 8 were bilingual. And the summary of our program, 35.5 credits were earned from our high schoolers. So this program, I should have backed up and said it serves preschool through 12th grade. So we had preschool through 12th grade at Crater Elementary this summer. And the high schoolers recovered or earned initial credit, 35.5 credits. The incoming 9th graders earned 13.5 credits. So one of the benefits of federal program summer school is if you are an 8th grader going into 9th grade, you can earn initial credit so that you're starting 9th grade with credit already. Might not be super valuable to those 9th graders right now, but will be later, which goes back to one of the reasons why our kids are successful in graduating on time, because they are earning those credits. 22 credits were recovered by students currently in high school, and 38 of our students that were high school age benefited from the program. The program, I should mention, is 16 days. So they did all this work in 16 days. All that to say, our students need us. So as we continue the conversation, expanding our ELE services for co-teaching is something that I want to impress upon this board, that this is something we've been working on for several years. And then this last year, I'm really excited that we were able to provide stipends to our ELD specialists and our dual language specialists. What's not listed on there is our reading specialists. So those folks that are handling our reading interventions also receive stipends this year, which supports us being competitive with highly qualified staff members. Being able to have that high quality professional development. We have district level TOSAs for both reading, math, and dual language and English language development. As I mentioned, for our dual language program, we're working on being the first in the state to offer a CTE program for dual language. We started the application process this year. While the program won't officially start until the following school year, no one else has this. So that will allow our students to graduate and have a certificate in interpretation and translation. We are hoping to partner with Providence and one of our local colleges to be able to offer this. So we'll be the first program in the state that has that. And then continuing to develop our Grow Your Own Pathways. We have a lot of teachers in our district who are from our district, and we have a lot of teachers who are not. And so being able to look within and at those opportunities for our EAs and our graduating high school students to bring them back to support our students in our program. So I just thank you for that ongoing support. And if you have any questions, I can take those. I know I kind of fire hosed you, sorry.
I have a question about co-teaching. Is that only in the dual language classes, or are there different other classes outside dual language that are also getting the co-teaching model?
Excellent question. So for our teachers who have their endorsement, there's a special endorsement for teaching English to students. In the dual language model, they're teaching integrated ELD. So they may be the ELD teacher. In classrooms that are not in the dual language model, they are co-teaching. So they have 2 teachers teaching in there. There are classrooms in the dual language model that do have 2 teachers because that teacher might not have their endorsement.
Gotcha.
I think we are striving to have the 2 teacher model. And I think at this point, we've expanded our staffing this year. So Mountain View will have 2 ELD teachers. The high school will have two ELD teachers plus a little bit more because we have one person doing an additional class period. So just being able to see the support for our students. I'm really excited to look forward to our student achievement in the future because our district is investing in the support and that highly qualified staff.
One more, this kind of side question, but you brought it up, so I'm gonna ask it. Does Newburgh have a TAG program? And I'll give a little explanation why I'm asking. Two of my three graduated children, when we were going through middle school and high school, they said there was no TAG program, even though they were in advanced classes and we did not have it. So maybe something has changed over the recent years, but does Newburgh have a TAG program?
Newburgh has a TAG program. The initial assessment occurs in third grade, but there are other opportunities for students to be identified as TAG. This past year, my coordinator, Holly Mealy, and our director of special programs, Tony Buckner, worked on our state district TAG plan. New this year, TAG plans will be available in our student information system. So any teacher in the district that has a student who's identified as TAG will be able to see their TAG plan and be able to provide the accommodations or modifications to their curriculum for those accelerations.
Do we have any information on schools, maybe elementary, middle school, especially that might have deficiencies in whether it's teachers or programs that are helping with this?
Tell me what you mean by deficiencies.
Deficiency might be the wrong word. Obviously, Edwards has a whole program. Are other elementary schools, I guess Edwards splits. I guess the other elementary schools, are there teachers that are able to be in those classrooms with children who are in need of those?
Great question. So another thing that I want to comment on is prior to the school year, we actually had many ELD specialists that were split between buildings. And at the beginning of this last school year, we actually have dramatically increased the number of staff who have been able to fill the English language development specialist position. So off the top of my head, I know our COA is half-time and Ewing Young is half-time, but it's only due to the number of students needing services. All the rest of our schools have full-time and potentially more than one person. So I would say at this point in where we're at with our programming, it is the most robust it's ever been, and I've been in this district since 2006.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one quick question. What of the total population in the school district, how many are in TAG? Like what percentage?
That's a good question.
You said the ELs, we have 0.
I would have
State
to
is
follow up
0.4.
with you on the percentage because I don't want to say the wrong number.
Okay,
I'll get that for you though.
all right.
I just want to say thank you. As you can tell, she's on top of stuff. She does a great job.
Thank you. The next item in the agenda is July expenditure, revenue reports, and updated June reports. Heather Bixby.
Okay, so in your board packet, I touched on it a little bit last month, that you would have 2 expenditure and revenue reports. So the first one in your packet is for 22-24 or 23-24, sorry. And this is just, you're going to see this every month. And this is after the first month, there's not a whole lot to report on there. Although when you look at some of the expenditures and you're looking specifically at encumbrances, some of those you'll see where there's only 16% of the budget left. And I just want to point out that on payroll, we encumber those expenses at the very beginning of the year. And then they will move from encumbrance to an actual expenditure as we go through the year. So the ending balance may fluctuate a little bit if we have somebody out on an extended leave without pay, or if we hire an extra teacher, or, you know, we need additional staffing. So those numbers can fluctuate a little bit, but what you're looking at is the entire year's worth of payroll being encumbered beginning July 1st. So it's just a good idea. We know we're going to have that expense. We don't want to use it for something else. So we just go ahead and encumber it for the year. The second report you have is your June of 22-23. And this is the one that I told you will be fluctuating for probably through, well, I just got talking to Luke tonight. We anticipate our final audit the first week of October. So I would say by October, you won't see any more changes to these numbers. And you should see very few of them between this month or between August and September. So most of the changes happen in the month of August, when you're looking at your expenditures for the prior year and those final bills coming in. You think about if you buy something, they don't usually send you a bill the same day. They wait until their next billing cycle. So just catching up with those billing cycles and making sure that they're paid in the appropriate fiscal year. But I don't have any concerns with where we ended or where we're going for this next year. So is there any questions?
No questions? Okay, thank you, Heather. Then the next one is banking follow-up, resolution 2024-01.
So at the last meeting, we presented a resolution that had the listing of all the banks that we use. And we talked about why we have so many different banks in the district, and just kind of a refresher. We have several student body accounts that they've been allowed to go to whatever bank they wanted to and create an account on behalf of the district. So over the next year, we'll be whittling those down and moving them into a parent account and our primary checking account, which gives us better fiscal control over making sure that the funds are spent the way they were intended to be spent. Student body funds are fundraised money. They have very strict rules on how you can spend those dollars. And right now there's very minimal oversight because we don't have access to even know how much money they have in their accounts until we either ask for a bank statement or it's the end of the year and we're collecting audit stuff. The parent account will be with Wells Fargo. So the other question that came up last month was the Zion's bank account, and why the district chose to use a bank that was didn't have a branch in Oregon. So the investment side of Zion's bank does have a branch in Portland, and the only reason that we use Zion's bank is just for the investment flow through account. I don't know why they chose Zion's bank. There's two primary ones. It's Zion's Bank or US Bank are your two primary for investment accounts to do the flow through between your general checking account and your bond pros or your bond investments. So what would have happened is when they were deciding or when they were going out for bond, they would have gotten estimates from both banks on what the fees would have been based on how much money the bond was going to be, or they anticipated the bond going to be. There would have also been some adjustments to the rate based on how what their intent was for investment. When they received those two quotes, they would have decided who was the better bank that would charge them the least amount of fees, and ideally that would have been who they chose. So I will assume that that is how they chose the bank and chose Zion's Bank over, say, US Bank. So just to clarify, that's why we're using Zion's Bank, and that was a procedure that was implemented during the bond process.
Any questions for Heather or comments?
I do have a question about the students' accounts. Is there a reason that we're wanting to have so much regulatory over that and those accounts? I mean, if they're fundraising for themselves, I'm assuming there is a parent or teacher trying to oversee that. Why are we needing to have it under a parent account for us? As a school district?
That's a good question. So student body accounts are funds that are typically raised by students. And as the board of directors for Newburgh Public Schools, you are financially responsible for how that money is spent. Student body funds are typically the number one source of funds that are misused in a school district because there is a lack of control over how those funds are spent. The very specific rules, like the money that the kids fundraise has to be spent on the kids. So you can't buy the teacher something out of student body funds. It's misappropriation of funds. So, I mean, they're very, very strict. And so if you're going to be responsible for it, then I want to have some oversight on it so that I make sure that they're doing things the way they're supposed to be doing so that you feel comfortable in knowing that there's no misappropriation of funds within the district. And that is part of our audited financial statements. And one of the things that they will caution us on over and over again is make sure that you are monitoring your student body funds. And right now, I can't even tell you how much money is in those accounts because I don't have access to their bank accounts and I don't have access to their accounting systems. So we're working on pulling them over. The other disadvantage we have is when, like, let's say the high school has a problem with their accounting software, which is Blue Bear. I don't have access to that program. I can't help them with that program. I can't help troubleshoot why they can't get a bank statement to reconcile. There's so many different pieces of that. And then one of the problems we had, and you heard the auditor mention it, was that we have some bank statements that didn't get reconciled in a timely manner. Part of that is because the outgoing administrative staff at schools, the accounting software was in their name. So when their subscription expired, nobody got notice that the subscription was expired and nobody was able to access that data because it was under an individual's name instead of the district's. So we spent months trying to recreate what was in those accounts so that we could have a place to start and have some control over that as well. So it's a protection for the district. It's an assurance for the families that they know when their students are going out and they're raising money, that we're actually using that money on what we said we were raising it for.
Any other questions? Thank you, Heather. The next thing is board member school assignments. Dr. Phillips.
Yeah, and right before I go into this, I would just encourage any board member to take Heather up on her offer and sit down with her and get a little tutorial over our budget and how things work. It's worth your time. Okay. Yeah, in your packet, you have a list of schools. And then you already, Trevor and Renee are on there as their assignments because their assignment was already made. Trevor, of course, with Dundee in his region and Renee with Edwards. And so I was asked by board chair Woodward to present this. And so we could make assignments and you guys could all kind of adopt a school. What that's looked like in the past is you just call the principal and say, hey, I want to swing by. And it's just might be your school that if there's a fundraiser, you're there if you can make it. If you have time and you want to read to kids, maybe you go there to read to kids or to work with kids rather than some other school. You're the link to that school for the district. It worked out really well last year. Obviously, some board members were more involved than others, but I thought it was great. So that's what this is.
So do we have volunteers for different schools?
I'd love to be there for Joe and Austin.
Okay.
I was gonna say, is this also kind of by districts? I mean,
That's how we did it before,
okay.
kind of where you live.
I don't have a school in zone 4, so I'll volunteer for Catalyst and Mountain View. And I know they're
I was gonna say all 3, 4 of those
yeah.
are my zone
yeah,
technically.
so I'll put my name down. We can share them and
Sure.
Can I call dibs on Ewing Young?
I can take Crater.
okay.
So we still have, as you see, high school, we put everybody,
Mhm.
we're one high school town. And then, so we still have Mabel and Chehalis Valley.
Well, I'll take Melville Rush.
Great.
I could take CV.
Okay,
We have it.
And it doesn't mean that you can't go do stuff at other schools
Yeah.
or anything. It's like, because I've like gone and helped out at Mountain View and at CV and done certain things, so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is public comments, email submission. There's no handout for this, just a conversation to start talking about how this board might want to handle that. I believe over COVID, Newburgh began accepting public comments via email. And as you saw tonight, I read a couple of them. Newburgh was not the only district that implemented that over COVID. COVID's gone. And so is that something the board wants to continue doing? There's several options. You continue to doing exactly what we do now. We accept, they come to an email address, Tabitha operates it. If the email arrives before 4 p.m., the day before the board meeting, I read it at the next board meeting. That's the option we do now. That's what you can continue to do. Another option is we accept them. They go in your packet, but we don't read them publicly. You get them, you read them, but we don't do it publicly. Another is we just shut it down. There's no more email submissions. If you want to make comments to the board, you show up and make comments to the board. There might be other options, but those are the few I've thought of. So it's, and then while we're at it, are you happy with 2 minutes when people come and do 2 minutes? So have at it.
I'd like to keep the email comments. I think it's an accessibility thing. I think there are some people that may not be comfortable coming in or may not be able to make it or any for a myriad of issues. I know many districts, like you said, have kept the email. And I'd also I wouldn't mind personally if we moved it to 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes, district I work in, they have 3 minutes, and for both reading the email and the 2 minutes, I've given public comment. I've been here now twice and seen them for both when you've had to read them and when other people have had, and it just feels rushed. I think a lot of people get cut off, but 3 minutes seems like a happy medium. Where I work, I see most people are generally able to get what they want in there, and it doesn't seem like they're rambling. So that would be my personal, I think 3 minutes and keeping the email comments would be good, and let the public be heard.
Other comments from board members?
Is there any way we could reach out to the community to find out how much they, I guess, want to keep that email system, or the fact that it's read, if that's a preference for those people? I don't know. It just seems like it can be a little bit burdensome, depending on what happens. I'm not against it. It just, I don't want to take that away if that's something that people are enjoying to be able to have that option or not.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do some kind of a survey. This tonight, there was 2. Last week, I think there was 8 or 10 last month. I think since I've been here, I don't know, on average, there's probably 4 or 5 on average per month.
I guess it would be my personal preference would be keep the emails. I think it's a good avenue. And if somebody has something to say, right, and they can't be here, it does give them the option, right? Not everybody can be here in person. I think that's preferable, but and I think 2 minutes is enough. I think we've had more before. I think it does force you to prepare ahead of time and be more succinct in the point you're trying to get across. So that's my thought on that.
Um, so I think I do like the idea of still being able to receive it. There's a lot of people who wouldn't be comfortable to stand up at the microphone, and it is a little unnerving to, have Scott looking at your phone, which I would love to move to the program that the city has. You can see the amount of time is running. It's a little easier. Then there's an alert that's like, you're done. I sometimes get a little frustrated with the commentary from people who are not part of the district. And there's an individual who communicates with us from out of state. So I don't know if there's a mechanism to know who these folks are, email. You can be anybody. We don't know who you are. We don't know that you live in the district or you have any interest in the district. And so I don't know if there's a mechanism to do that. But that can sort of get us bogged down in some issues in the community. And then it's always awkward because we don't really have a way to engage the citizens who come and bring the information to us of their concerns. I guess we could make appointments with them afterwards. It's just awkward to hear what they have to say and not have any sort of dialogue about it. But maybe I'm just more used to that ability to dialogue. So,
One thought as you spoke is maybe when they email Tabitha, we ask for their address. Maybe that would, and then, what does that mean though? If they say they're from McMinnville, we're like, nope, or we're still okay with that. I don't know what we would do with it per se, but that's a thought.
I think asking where they're from is interesting. We can still hear it. Doesn't mean we have to not hear their concerns, but it might help me process the information a little differently.
You could also read it too, not the address, because obviously we don't want to do that, but it could be, Jane from McMinnville. And I think that it doesn't mean that their concerns from outside the community aren't also shared in the community. But I also think that if we have, I don't want to, as a board, give as much weight necessarily to something that's outside the community if it's not echoed in the community. And I think sometimes when we get a lot of comments from outside the community, it can seem like an issue is here when it's really not. So,
Renee, Jeremy, any comments?
I'm really impartial on the communication. Email is fine for me in 2-3 minutes. Director DeHart, it helps me get more succinct, but some people still need a little extra time. So I'm either way. I'm easy.
Well, since this is just no vote, but it sounds to me like we keep the email and people come in person, and we'll try for now 3 minutes so that people aren't as rushed. I heard more people saying they didn't care or wanted 3 minutes. Are people in agreement? Is that okay? Okay. Got it.
just want to make sure we're still keeping, what's the overall limit?
3 minutes.
No, the overall is it still 30?
30.
Okay, because I think
Yeah.
that would have been one concern, is I obviously want to make sure we keep to that. If the 3 minutes starts becoming
Right.
unsuccinct, then we may want to go back to that. And I don't want to make it so. I think we're at a good amount of people that speak now. I just want to make sure that we're not going to cut off more community members if we do expand it. I think the amount of speakers we have now, that we can accommodate that. So
Yeah, and I would recommend that if you are going to go to 3 minutes and keep 30 as your total, that you honor the people that showed up first, and then we read the list. And if I get cut off with 2 left, they're in your packet.
okay, yeah,
I would prioritize people that show up.
Sounds good.
I agree.
Okay, now we move to board action items. The first one is PE easement Dundee Elementary, and Larry Hampton's here for that. And this will be an item that we vote on. If there's no questions, does someone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the Dundee Elementary School PGE easement as presented.
I'll second.
All the discussion, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Can I just say real quickly? You'll get more formal invites, but we are planning a couple of kind of open out to celebrations of a couple of the new buildings, particularly at Edwards and the high school, the week before the school starts. Catalyst still is going to have a few things to be done, and so we're going to hold off on that one a little bit. It'll be ready for school, but anyway, so just be watching for that. The Edwards is Thursday, the 31st, and the high school is Friday, the 1st. They're both kind of in connection with other events that they're doing there, but it'll be a celebration, and just would hope that as many of you as possible can come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is middle school student fees.
Okay, so this is the document that was shared with you last month by our CV principal, Andy Du Bois. And so you had last month to have it presented to you. You've had a month to think about it. Our middle school principals are wanting action on this, approval or not.
Has there been any comment from the community about issues they might have with it? I mean, I haven't got anything personally, so I was curious if the district has more.
I've received
generally.
nothing. No comment.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the Mountain View and Chehalem Valley Middle Schools fee schedule for 2023-2024 as presented.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next one is Audit Corrective Action Plan. Heather Bixby.
So when Luke was here, he went over the 3 deficiencies that were found in the audit. And he kind of touched base with you on how we had addressed those things. But this is a actual formal document that I have prepared based on requirements from the Secretary of State to put it to writing what our corrective action plan is so that we don't have these deficiencies in the future. So it basically lays out each one of the deficiencies and why it was a deficiency, what we're going to do to fix it, and what the time frame for implementation is. And so I don't know if you want me to go through each one of them or if you just want to ask questions if you have questions.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
It says plan of action for sample municipality. Is that which under the first bullet or bolded item? Was that where you sample?
Yeah, and it should be for the Newburgh School District. Sorry, I missed that.
Any other questions? We can change that. Plan of action for Newburgh School District.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approves the corrective action plan for audit of fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022 as presented.
You second the motion?
Any further discussion?
I just want to make sure that's with the corrected that it says Newburgh School District 29J.
Yes, with the correction.
Yes, we'll actually correct it to have our formal federally recognized. So it will actually say Yamhill County School District 29J. And I will also add the S to Zion's because I see that the auditor's description left that off when I copied and pasted it. So
Okay, with the corrections, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next is surplus tire manufacturing. Heather Bixby.
Okay, so this is a list of items that Tiger Manufacturing uses during their fabrication process. They a lot of times get tools and equipment that are donated to them. And sometimes they're donated in mass quantities and they don't need everything that they get because they don't have the manpower to use it all. And sometimes they've just updated things or gotten newer things. And so they wanted to surplus some items. Their intent is any item under $100 to have a garage sale type sale on the 19th of August. And we will publicize that for them if you approve surplusing these items. In addition to that, the items over $100 will have a value placed on them as to what we, the gentleman who kind of oversees it, he will place a value as to what he thinks that is actually worth and what we could bring in for revenue and attempt to sell those items on Craigslist and eBay. And if we don't get anything that way, then we'll revert back to like a sealed bid process for any of the higher priced items.
Who is that person? Can we disclose?
Alvin,
Oh, from ARE.
yeah. Sorry, his last name totally slipped out. Yeah.
And I presume the money just goes back into the program that they
Yes, so actually, this is one of the accounts that we cleaned up because right now, our Tiger Manufacturing has like 3 different bank accounts. And so we're in the process of cleaning that up and they are going to be one of the first groups that are moved to the parent account for Newburgh School District. And yeah, they're super excited. We're going to bring them in and show their students how to use the accounting program. And teach them a skill that they've not had the option of learning before. So we're super excited to work with them on that and help them further their experience in the business side of manufacturing.
So we had the gentleman from ARE give an evaluation or his what he thinks, but who came up with a list of these are extras?
So with himself and then items that were pulled out of like that have been put into storage that they haven't ever used, or these are items that they would not normally use in the school year and don't anticipate needing in the future. So like one of these was the I can't remember which one it was, but like the circuit breaker bus plugs, they've got 26 of them. And they don't have a need for 26 of them, but there's still some value in those for people who might want to buy them. So that's kind of how they determined that that was surplus. But they actually have a student group that oversees all of the Tiger Manufacturing. And so a lot of these business decisions they make kind of as a quasi board. So they have a group of students that kind of oversees how they raise money, how they spend money, what projects they take on and stuff like that. So it works really well for them to kind of get that sense for these are things that we don't need. So what steps do we need to go through to get rid of them?
Yeah. Follow-up question is, I mean, I understand Tiger Manufacturing. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we're offering as metal shop classes, etc. Or robotics club. And I don't know if robotics club is still around. It was a couple of years ago before COVID. But I mean, have we reached out and made sure that like the teacher for metal shop doesn't need these robotics class or club, they wouldn't need these items?
We certainly can. I don't know if they have done that in the past. I don't know how advanced those programs are right now.
Yeah.
So, but we certainly can reach out to them before their sale and make sure that they have the option to receive any of that those surplus items before they go to the sale.
Sounds good.
Someone want to make a motion to about the surplus items?
I'll move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the list of items to be surplus as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, passing? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next thing is resolution 2024 08R establishes designated school district appointments August 9th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Dr. Phillips.
All right, this was a resolution that last month you approved for 1 month instead of 1 year. And so we're asking for this resolution to be approved for 11 months, basically. If you remember I guess the questions came last month about the attorneys. I believe we had 7 attorneys listed. Now we have 4 attorneys listed. And so that's the change. I think you all know.
Any discussion?
I think we just wanted to mention that we still have the other attorneys like Bob Steringer for litigation and things like that. Just mention that. So.
And just to clarify, Nancy, you said 2024-08 is actually 03R. On paper it's there, but
03, I
Yeah.
said 08, okay,
Yeah.
03R,
Just wanted
sorry.
to
Thank you.
make sure it's there. So
And just to finish up the accounting side of that, it was 6 on the original public posting, but we're striking 5 and 6 from that list to leave us with the first one.
Correct. So I could read them real quick. So Garrett Heeman Robertson of Salem, Hungerford Law of Oregon City, Merced of Shannon, and then WESD, Lisa Freely and Christine Nesbitt. Those are the 4.
Is there a motion to approve this?
I was just going to add that we did receive an email from Tyler Smith resigning, withdrawing or resigning from representation of the Newburgh School District Board, since that wasn't mentioned.
And I'll move that the Newburgh School Board of Directors adopt resolution 2024-03R. Resolution establishing designated school district appointments, financial auditors, and legal counsel by title only.
I second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Motion's carries unanimously. The next item is approve OSEA contract July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026.
So that's in your board packet. This is a successor agreement where we've negotiated with the classified employees of the district. They had a 3-year existing contract, which has expired as of June 30. And with board approval, that this would replace that and update us for the upcoming 3 years. Some basic highlights or overviews is that we made some financial adjustments, and of course, any financial adjustments, I run through Heather in the business office to make sure that this is something that not only can we afford today, but that we can afford tomorrow. And so that's always the key. And that's always the discussion when you're working with associations, is to decide how much financially you can compensate, but still maintain these services. So if the economy were to take a turn, that we still could meet our obligations. So some of the basics coming out of this agreement is that for their professional development fund, we increased it from $10,000 to $15,000 in this agreement. We've upped the insurance per employee, where they were currently at $1,550 a month to $1,600 a month for this upcoming school year. And then there's a Me Too clause, which we are going to be going into negotiations with the licensed association this year. So whatever the licensed association negotiates with the district, the classified in their second and third year of their contract will receive the same amount for insurance coverage and payments by the district. Should an employee have a spouse that has better insurance than what we're offering, we will pay you up to 67% I don't know, I'll look at my math guy, the superintendent here, whatever 67% is of $1,600 a month, the employee could get that back in turn. So I would say it's roughly $1,200 potentially. So, okay, sorry to put you on the spot. The COLA or cost of living increase over the next 3 years, we agreed at 3.5% per year. So it'll be 3.5% increase from last year to this, and then the following, and then the following, and this is a 3-year agreement. And I think those are the big financial, one last financial compensation is that this was funding, special funding from the state. This is a retention bonus where if an individual is an employee of the district 60 days prior to December payroll, that they'll receive an additional $1,000. So it's actually a nice time of year to get a few extra dollars as you're going into the holiday season. But that's the overall update from the previous agreement to the current agreement. Currently, OSEA has voted to approve the proposed contract as presented.
You know what the last contract was for the yearly increase? Well, it's 3.5% increase now for the next 3 years. So you know what it was for this last contractual agreement? Was it 3.5 still, or?
This past year, I'm looking at Heather, was it 2.5%? This past year, I am aware of that.
Okay.
Any other questions before we have a motion?
I was looking through this. I had a couple of questions. One in 7.3, it says the district shall allow designated union representatives to engage in the following activities during work hours and at the district's facilities without loss of compensation. So is that saying that we paid them to do union work on our dime?
Essentially, what associations are allowed to do legally is to do association work before school, after school, or during lunchtime. And so, yes, they would be on the clock, but it wouldn't be during the student contact time.
And then one other part of this also said,
Where are you at?
I can't find this next one.
Okay.
But it talks about that we collect the union dues and pay them out at the 15th of the month. Is that right? Is that normal that the school district would be required to collect union dues?
So we withhold them from their payroll with the employee's authorization to withhold that. And then we send one payment to the union for all members so that there's only one check going into the union versus 200 little checks for each individual paying the union. So it's done as a payroll deduction, and it's not a hard process for us to do that.
All right. It just seems strange that we'd be collecting dues for an organization that's not part of the school district, right?
We do it for both unions, and it's common practice statewide.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the same for the at work lunchtime stuff. That's a regular union business.
Yep.
Yeah, but we kind of look at more as a payroll benefit. So it'd be the same if you had a 403B that you wanted to contribute to. And the district could withhold that and send that money to that company for you directly out of your paycheck, where it's just a benefit that we're providing to the employees to pay those.
Okay. And then on 7.4, the district shall permit the union to use space on mutually agreed upon bulletin boards for the purpose of communicating with employees, as long as such communications are not inflammatory or derogatory in nature and follow applicable state and federal laws. So is that, do we have bulletin boards at each of the schools, and that's our designated place to put that?
Yeah, even here in the district office. So maybe there's an update from Boley, and they say minimum time for a break is gone from 10 minutes to 12 minutes or to 15 minutes. And so that type of information that we post throughout the district.
Okay.
They're usually in the staff rooms.
Yeah, I guess the reason I bring that up is because there was an issue. It seemed like stuff being posted on Windows and stuff. at the different schools, in particular CV. This has been some time ago, so I had never read the contract before, but that would be the place that they would post that type of information would be on the designated bulletin board.
I'm not aware of associations posting items on windows. Maybe that's been in a past practice here in the district, but I've never heard of that in my travels.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve this contract?
I move that the Newburgh School Board of Directors adopts resolution 2024. Nope, that's the wrong one. I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors approve the OSEA agreement for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026 as presented.
Second.
Any other further discussion? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the item that we added to the agenda was okay. Policy Committee, Scott Lindberger.
So past practice in this district is that we have a policy committee, and that committee is made up of myself and a maximum of 3 board members. We have a subscription from OSBA where we get policy updates. I was informed today by the head of OSBA that we should be seeing some updates coming out of the legislature, which then causes a shift in policies. We should be seeing those in about 2 weeks. So the past practice in this district is that board members and one of the administrative team members get together and they'll take a look at the policies, and then we'll go through that process. What I've done in this past year is I've taken the policies as they've come from OSBA and I've sat down with the board members. If it's a board committee, we're required to have it as an open session, just as we're in right now. I've been in other districts where it is an administrative committee. So in this case, the deputy superintendent's committee, and then you're not required to broadcast. So that's an option to you as well. And I'm just making you aware of a couple of options that are out there. But as far as our practice in this past year that I've been here is that we've broadcasted these. I've brought these forward. I will show you as an example of what the policy would look like, and then what the suggested edits are that come from OSBA, and that's reviewed by their policy and by their legal team, and they'll make recommendations. And I can go into it much more detail, but as an overview, policies, there's 3 levels. There's the required, those are in law, we have to have those in place. Then there's those that are highly recommended, and those are not required, but again, obviously highly recommended that you have those in place. And then the 3rd level is options. And in the past, even in this district and other districts I've worked, if we've had option policies on file, then I bring them forward. So we update them. If they're not on file and I don't see where they've been issues or policies that are coming up concerning that particular policy, then that doesn't necessarily get pushed forward. But in this case, and in this district, the committee could decide that as well, because I could give you, say, all 30 or 40 policies that I'm anticipating coming from OSBA and saying, all right, what do we want to do and how do we want to go about it? So really a lot of options for you there as far as what you want to do. My suggestion is that if you want to continue with past practice, that you would have 3 members, and that's why we have it as an action item. And then what would happen is I would send out an email saying, hey, I've got these policy updates. I'm going to ask Tabitha to coordinate your calendar, my calendar, and let's get together and block some time out and go through the process. What the subcommittee does then moves it forward to the board as a whole. You have it in your packet. If you want to discuss those policies or those changes or questions and concerns, you can. If not, if the board trusts what the subcommittee does, then the discussion is less. So it just depends on the nature of the board and how they wish to proceed. So you have a lot of flexibility in this and how you want to make it happen. One other thing I want to bring up to you, and then I'll be quiet, is there was question as far as the policy process itself. I've found since I've been here that there've been a lot of dated policies in place. And so one of the questions that was brought up by this board was, what would be the process or what would be the potential cost if we brought in OSBA and sat down with us? And so again, there's a couple of options there, but I reached out to the head of the policy department at OSBA, and he gave me a ballpark range of anywhere from $9,000 to $15,000 if OSBA were to come out and work with us to clear up all the policies. He says that process, again, there's a lot of variance here. It can go anywhere from 12 to 18 months. This school district went through this process prior to COVID. COVID hit, they didn't complete. And so that obviously was on the minds of previous board members prior to, but then when COVID hit, it changed the rules on everything. And then the boards has since shift a couple of times since then. And so they were in the process of working on that, but it stopped. If you wanted to move with a more quicker process, a single administrator from the district could meet with OSBA and maybe one other board member, and that would take less than 12 months is what he's citing. But again, it a lot of variables depending on the number of individuals and how quickly you want to move. So threw a lot of things out there. I'll go ahead and take any questions that you have or what you guys decide what process you want to go.
Is there an action item that you want?
This is an action item. So what's the policy committee look like? How do you want it done? And I think you need to take action on that to decide. I've been in districts too, where I've been the only one and then I just present.
I have a question. If you did a complete review and it wasn't in the budget already, $9,000 to $15,000, would there be funds for that even to make that decision?
I would say in a multi-million-dollar budget, and don't hit me, Heather, that yes, you would have that $9,000 to $15,000 that where there's enough flexibility that we could do that.
In a contingency fund or something?
Well, I'll let Heather answer what type of fund it would be, but I would say out of the general fund itself, there's some flex within the budget to do that.
And the board has a budget.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that my opinion, I think we should have it be kind of as it has been. I think having a few board members on there gives some diversity of thought. So on that, and we have a lot of different mindsets on this board. So I think that should be represented personally on that. So yeah.
I like the idea of having somebody else do all the hard lifting and the heavy sort of all that work. But I think what we miss out on is that investment from the board, learning about the policies, being sort of mindful about all of that. So I think I personally would like for our board to do the work. I'm not volunteering to be on the committee though. So let's just, that's up to whoever wants to be on it.
And are you needing that tonight? If that's what we decide, would you want if say we did 3 people, you'd want that tonight too?
So let me give a recommendation. How about that? My suggestion is that you do not bring in OSBA for this upcoming school year. We're all still fairly new. Even our old timers are 3 years older or newer. And then the rest of you are months into this and you already have enough new stuff coming at you. I would recommend that as you go through this year and you look at policies and you're like, well, yeah, we really do need to get on it. Then let's have that discussion a year from now. That's my recommendation. But I think, again, being fairly new to the district, I think the process of having this as a board committee where you're continuing to broadcast and put that information out there, I think there's still a level of trust that we all need to continue to develop to grow in this district as we work together, that we continue to do that. But as far as the number of board members, whether you want 1, 2, or 3, again, that's fine. I've done it by myself in the past as well. But again, I think it comes back to a matter of level of trust and a level of understanding, but it's also a time commitment as well. And so, yes, I would say we need to take action on that with 30 or 40 new policies potentially coming down the pike. I hate to get behind the 8 ball any more than we already are.
Well, I know Deb, you didn't want to volunteer, but I'll volunteer. I don't have another job on the board yet, so why not? And I also think, to echo what's been said, it would give me a chance to learn more about policy and work. I like the idea, like I said, of 3, so that we can have a diversity of thought. So
I don't know what the process is of choosing that, but I also would love to be in consideration for being on that policy board.
So are we doing committee assignments right now? Is that what we're doing?
Well, I guess, yes, for the policy.
Just for the policy? Okay. I guess the other thing would be, do we have a good idea on which ones are outdated and which ones are coming down the pike and which ones are critical, right? Do you have a feel for that?
I can tell you, if I see a policy from 2005, it shoots a red flag up for me. If it's, say, 2020, my comfort zone's pretty good. For example, a policy that we're all familiar with now, you should be starting KL, those 2 letters should be starting. That's our general complaint policy. I've seen where KL has changed 2 or 3 times within 1 school year. And so just because you have a recent date doesn't mean that it's necessarily the latest and greatest. Again, coming out of COVID, and I know feels like it's been a while, but it really hasn't. When you look at the timeline, it really did put a freeze on a lot of districts when it came to updating their policies. So,
And some policies will be renewed and it's just verbiage, meaning it used to maybe say he and she, and they changed it to they. Or they added gender identity to a lot of the protected classes. Nothing else changed. They just added that. So some of them are really quick to get through because it's just tiny little changes like that. Others are legislative changes, and they're almost full rewrites.
Mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I hear, I don't know what kind of motion we have. It sounds like people want to continue, our board members want to continue having a policy meeting with open meeting and
so it'd be a board committee.
a board committee.
Board policy committee with the recommendation that we continue with our process of having an open session, both broadcasting online and also in person. And right now there are 2 individuals that have tentatively said I'd like to be on the committee, and I'm not seeing any others. So if the board's okay, maybe you take the vote that you have the 2 committee members and myself on the policy committee.
I'll stay on it.
I
Good.
stand
You are
corrected.
good.
Now 3.
So we have 3. Anybody else clamoring?
Well, we can only have.
No, I know we can only have 3. Yeah, I know. We can
well,
only
if we
have
had more than 3,
Yeah,
then
but
we could
No.
Sounds like we have three volunteers. So is there a motion that Trevor, Saul, and James serve on the policy committee?
I make a motion that Trevor, James, and Saul serve on the policy committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item was added, and it is add catalyst school designation, and Dr. Phillips added this.
Okay, a few months ago, I mentioned to the board that the district, we were looking at taking Catalyst from a program. So we all know Catalyst as our alternative school. It is not a school. It's a program within the high school. So when the state looks at Newburgh High School, they see Newburgh High School and Catalyst, all one big group of kids. We talked a number of months ago about removing Catalyst and making it its own school. We also talked about making COA, which is K-12 online, its own school. We're not ready to do that yet, but we are ready. We want to petition the state, the Oregon Department of Education, to let us make Catalyst its own school. So some of the reasons why we want to do that, one of the big ones is cleaner data. Right now, when we have a graduation rate, it's the high school and Catalyst together, and it's hard to figure out which is which. If a newspaper reports on it, they report as NHS, but really it's NHS and Catalyst. When they report on student achievement, dropout rate, anything, it's always both. And one reason to have Catalyst its own school is to divide that and have cleaner data. Another reason is Catalyst has been around for a long time and they're very effective at what they do. They've evolved. And I think them having being their own school adds a sense of not credibility, but legitimacy to what they're doing. Another thing is there are possible funding streams available, not guaranteed, but possible funding streams available as a standalone school rather than a program within a school. I can't really, as a team internally, we've tried to think of negatives. We can't necessarily think of too many negatives. I think it's fair to say that most alternative programs compared to their neighborhood high school, those kids are in an alt program because they're credit deficient. So their 4-year graduation rate might not be extremely strong, but maybe their 5-year graduation rate's a little better. So I think a caution would just be us as a district will have to do a good job of explaining the data. And that, yes, there's a difference between this school and this school. I also love our new principal there and his team. He wants to be the alt school that scores better than the neighborhood school. Right. So I appreciate that. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Jillian, you have anything to add? She's been working with ODE a little bit on this.
I would just add that we've had multiple conversations with Catalyst as well as the high school in terms of impacts. One of the great outcomes that Dr. Phillips mentioned was the data, and if Catalyst becomes its own school, it will receive the state report card. In working with ODE on this recommendations, while ODE doesn't have an official definition for what a school is, their recommendation was anything that was a permanent program that had over 50 students in enrollment could be considered as a school. Catalyst definitely meets that criteria. I think for our own internal data processes, that would be great help to us. And then, like Dr. Phillips said, I think the principal there really wants to own school as a school versus a program, which gives it its unique identity number. And really truly does help with that data for you to be able to make great decisions about instructional programming.
Do you want to explain why we need to vote on this tonight, please?
Yes, and this is my fault. We have to let ODE know that we want to do this by September 15th. So the question is, can we wait till next month? Because our next board meeting, I believe, is the 12th. The problem is if it's voted on the 12th, those minutes aren't official until October. And that's too late. We have to have it official by the 15th. So my fault. I didn't pay attention like I should have. I'll just didn't. Yeah.
Just to clarify, we are not doing anything illegal by putting it on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. Just clarifying.
Correct.
Thank you.
I love the idea. I just was curious, is there going to be any problems with kids, let's say at the high school, who might benefit from that program transferring over? I assume that there's right now, it's fairly seamless since it's the same program, the same school. Does that change?
Shouldn't be a problem at all. We still anticipate kids kind of being dual enrolled.
Okay.
So I don't think, in fact, we've got kids that also go to Salem for WCA, the tech center, and they're not only from Catalyst, from the high school. So we have some kids that are online part of the day, Catalyst part of the day. It'll still be great.
One other just technical question. What a school is, does that end up needing different staff? Does it need, their own X, Y, or Z staff that I'm unaware of in schools?
No. Frankly, they've been running as their own school for quite a while. It's just making it kind of legit. Yeah.
I think it sounds like a great idea. So it'd be kind of cool for that school and that group of kids and the principal and just, yeah, I think it's Sounds great to me.
Is there any specific language we need to put into a motion?
Sure. So what I wrote down was a motion to move Catalyst from program status to become its own school with a unique ID number. I'll read that again. A motion to move Catalyst from program status to becoming its own school with a unique ID number.
I so move. I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors move Catalyst program
From program status.
from program status to its own independent school status,
To its own school with its unique ID number.
to its own school with its unique ID number.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. And I apologize for the late agenda there item.
Okay. Now it's time for board and superintendent comments. So do we want to start with Jeremy? We'll start there.
Well, on the spot here. I welcome all the open public comments earlier, especially around the music program. If anybody's still here or listening, shoot your, well, that was specifically towards those folks that talked about it. If you need somebody in your corner, shoot an email to me. Several of my kids went through the music program. They all did go through the program, for the public school program, but I will be there to fight in your corner. Because music is definitely needed in this universe, in this world. So I'm glad that we're passing the Catalyst thing. A couple of my kids also, went through there for their own reasons, and not full time, but at least for part time, and it made the world a difference. And they were able to graduate when they needed to and with the credits. So I've not had a chance to meet the current principal, but the prior two principals, Tim Graham, and I can't remember the other one prior to that, were awesome. And I'm glad they're getting their own status and their own well-being in this district. And that's about all I have right now. Thanks.
I don't have much to say, other than, the barbecue was great. So, thanks to the master smoker, who cooked the brisket and the pork, and for all the people who showed up to help. It was a lot of fun. I think people were having a great time, and it was well received. So hopefully we make that a tradition. I guess this is year 2, so next year we'll go for year 3.
Well, we had an exciting opportunity for some of us to go tour ADEC, and they did an amazing job of helping us understand their role in the community. And we had a really robust conversation about partnerships with the Newburgh School District. And they've been invested in the community for a very long time. So I'm excited to see what interesting things might come out from that partnership. And the brisket was amazing.
I'd first like to echo a little bit what Jeremy said with the music program. I'd love to know more about why those prices have changed. I think that those kind of programs are so great for all the reasons that were stated, keeping kids engaged, letting them have that break from the rest of life that just can, I think, edify them. One of the things that I wanted to mention was there's been a lot of talk about the parental bill of rights that was rescinded last week. I wanted to say that I regret the process. I wish that we wouldn't have taken the vote and been more clear in what was happening. I hope that you will forgive me, us, however we'd like to say that. But for myself, just that I'm new. It was a new thing. I think that I understand more about how to speak up for maybe what I would like to see more. I still want to go back and hopefully on the policy committee can address that for all the reasons that I had stated that I was hesitant. I don't regret the vote, just the process. And I hope that you'll bear with us as we learn together and do things the way that we hope to do it in a process that is seen by the community as legitimate and well thought out. So thank you.
I'm gonna echo a couple things there. Yeah, same with the music program. My email's listed on the district website. Please shoot me an email. I'd love to know more about that. So that was kind of the first heard was tonight. So please send me some of that. So that hopefully we can help with that. Also want to echo kind of what Saul said with, don't regret the vote, just what some of how it may have come across or community may not have felt it was transparent. So and I know some of the emails that I got was just want to clarify I'm not against parental rights and want to, all those rights are still listed in there. And if anyone needs help knowing where that is, we have a list so that we can point parents to where those same rights still exist. So I'm excited for the school year to start. I think it'll be really cool to be on a board that actually oversees schools with kids in it. So I'm looking forward to what this year brings and these school assignments. And so just getting more involved in this. So the reason we did this was to be involved in the community. So thanks.
Hi, and I'd like to first I'd like to thank William Hernandez. He's the muralist and his crew that have been working so hard in this heat and the conditions of construction on the beautiful murals at Edwards. And it's going to be such a nice addition to our community. So, and what Larry Hampton said about their open house, that's going to be one of the revealing. So I would encourage whoever can go should check that out. And also shout out to all the summer school staff that have been working so hard, helping our kiddos and giving up their summer to do so. I really appreciate that. And then I was going to touch on ADAC 2, the tour. I just didn't realize all that they do there and all their in-house services and jobs that they provide and intern options. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for them for taking the time with us and showing us around and also hoping that we can team up with them for, in the future with some classes and programs or jobs or something for our students. So, and then also, I just wanted to I just wrote down with people that do talk in the audience, is there a way of responding back to them? I think we talked about that at a board too. It's kind of awkward, they come in and share things. And so, so what is the protocol of like the lady that came in and talked about the cross, if there is other religious symbols that are at our school, then I think that needs to be addressed. Either we need to eliminate the religious symbols at the school or add other symbols that could represent other groups. So if we're going to be equal, then we need to be all around equal. So I would like to look into that, maybe put that on the next board agenda or something. And then also maybe we can discuss too the music situation to get more information on that and have a discussion on what's going on there. So, but thank you. I guess that's it.
I also appreciate the opportunity to tour with ADAC. The tour was in the middle of the day, so those of us who had more flexibility were able to go, which was a privilege. And it was fun to see the teachers at the end of the summer school. But the more fun thing for me was one day I was at the swimming pool and they brought all of the summer school kids into the swimming pool. And those kids, 150 of them or more, were so excited. And some of them had never been to the Newburgh Public Pool. And it was just such a delight to see what all the opportunities the students this summer got to do. On the response to people who give comments, Dr. Phillips and I've talked about that. If they leave an email address on it, I've been trying to respond as board chair, just saying thank you and, any response that would, and I've CC'd everybody in the board member and Dr. Phillips so that so everybody is public. If there's no email on it, that's more difficult to do because a lot of these don't have an email. But I do have a comment because I got quite a few, and one of the comments tonight was about the school start time. And I realized that this is people, it's close to a lot of elementary students' parents' heart because it's a change of 20 minutes from last year. And the decision's been made, the bus schedule, it's too late this school year to change it. But as a board member, I would like to see, especially early in the year next year, like in January, at the beginning of the next, after the holidays, to do a parent survey and a teacher survey and, find out, was this a good start time or not? That, not to ignore their concerns and that we really take them seriously, but it's too late now to change it. This is a decision I look back through that the school board doesn't actually make the decision on school times. That's made by administrators and by bus schedules. The school board actually approves the calendar for the school year, but not start times, although we certainly have input. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a few comments. First, I'll talk about the fire that happened at the high school. Happened a week ago, Tuesday, August the 1st. It happened kind of like right over the front entrance, the tennis court side of the building, the front entrance where the offices are right there on the left. It happened on top of the roof. They tarred the roof that day. And from what we understand, they left a mop in the tar on the roof. And the tar is applied at 500 degrees. And so that mop combusted and then it just kind of smoldered in the tar. If you saw the videos or you saw the pictures, it looked pretty bad from the black smoke. The fire did not go below the tar. The damage came from the firefighters who they got there quick and they did a great job, maybe too good of a job, because they threw over 1,000 gallons of water at it and that water went through. And so the damage in the building is from water. Yes, it has nothing to do with any of the new, only the old. It's when you walk down the hallway, the college and career centers on the right-hand side, not very far down the hallway, it's that room and a little bit in the hall. ServPro's already, I went there 2 days. I went there Thursday and toured it. ServPro's already there. They're already doing the work. It'll be all spick and span before school starts. So in my opinion, we dodged a bullet. It could have been a lot worse. Their insurances are taking care of it. So that's the fire. I want to give an update on the website. This has been a bit of a trial. The website, we were told it was supposed to be ready to roll way back in April, May. We now know it will be live, ready to roll August 21st. So just shy of 2 weeks from now. Scott Marlin and his team have done a ton of work. Tabitha's done a lot of work. Jillian Daly, our new comms director, she's done a lot of work, and all the buildings have tried to update their individual pages. So there's been a lot of work done. But I think it turned into a lot more work than we anticipated. Bond, it's still going well. We anticipate all buildings will be ready to roll for sure by September 5th when kids arrive. Summer school, thanked everybody who did summer school. Back when I was a teacher, I did summer school, and it does take a big bite out of your summer. So it's a sacrifice. So thank them and the kids who showed up. They worked hard and got a lot done. Start times. I'll echo what our board chair said. It's too late to change this for this year. The decision was made and publicized back in March to give families time to get their affairs in order to make it work. We did that in March, so people had close to 6 months to act on it. I also agree with our board chair that let's look at it again and see how it's going. I personally have a second grader who might not be real happy about 20 minutes early, but I've got a 9th and a 12th grader who are happy. So I don't know if there's a right answer. And this might be, I hate to put it this way, but it might be a good first dip into a board member that sometimes we just can't make everybody happy. And this is one of those situations, I believe. Lastly, I wanted to mention the charter school students taking classes. This is not a music issue, okay? This district supports music. Our music staff now is stronger than it was a year ago, more FTE, more money put into it. This is not a music issue. This is an issue of, is this board okay with or not? Are you okay with families choosing to go somewhere else, meaning no longer Newburgh Public Schools and they go charter? Therefore, the Newburgh School District gets nothing for those families, those kids. The charter schools get the money. They've made a choice to do that. Then at the same time, they want to come back and take classes from us for free. That's the issue. If you're good with that, great. We can put it on the agenda next month. What I would recommend is this. All those kids, and there's not a lot of them, those kids, September 5th, we treat it like we treat it. They're there, they're taking the class, but the board make a decision September 12th, so a week later. Are you going to let them do it for free? They made a choice to leave and they took their money with them. Are you okay with that? And if you are, great. I've got no problems. I just, that's the issue. Are we going to let them come back for free when they willfully left us? Okay. I know that kind of sounds bad, but that's reality. The difference is, and you might hear, and I want to be very clear about this, homeschool families are different. And the reason homeschool families are different, when they go homeschool, the money doesn't go with them. The money goes nowhere. So if a homeschool family says, hey, we would like to come and take chemistry and orchestra and PE, we can then sign them up for those classes and go to ODE and say, we have those kids for half the day, pay us half. You can't do that with charter. It's either charter or us. Okay, so that's the differentiation. And I get that that's awkward, and I get that that's well, they don't go here. Why do you let them go for free? And so I just want to be very clear. Absolutely nothing against music. It's just, do you let people leave and take their money with them and then come back and take stuff for free? And is the price that the middle school pushed out, is that their accurate price? We received documents today that says that there might be a 5% cap. I'm not aware of that cap. I'll become aware the next couple of days as I research it. So maybe our price isn't correct either. How we came up with the price was fairly simple. And at the middle school level, there's 3 trimesters. Every day there's 6 periods. So in a year, you can take 18 classes. If we get $10,000 per kid, we divided that by 18 and said that class is worth X. At the high school level, it's a little different. It's 5 classes a day times 3. So the denominator is 15. You're dividing 15 instead of 18. So that's the numbers we pushed out. But if you guys say 0, great, we'll go 0. I kind of wanted to fill you in on what the real skinny is. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Future agenda items are student representatives for the next year. And then our next board meeting is September 12th at 6 PM. And I think, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
A second?
Second that.
Okay, so our meeting is adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Gavel it.